I really hope that I can boast about silver by the time Friday arrives. I'll clarify what I mean later in the video with respect to that. But nevertheless, today silver did something quite remarkable, even though the prices have declined. I'll detail why and how as we examine. $50 an ounce. That is the charm that silver is experiencing today as it pushed back a retreat below that figure. Closing almost, we're just a few minutes away from the market's finish. It appears it's going to occur that silver will end today above $50 an ounce. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself here because there's a slight bit of a retreat. And whenever there is a retreat, that's the moment to consider obtaining precious metals, your silver, because I do believe the prices are going to rise, but I could be entirely incorrect about that. And again, I'm going to clarify why and how later in the video as to what I think might transpire by Friday. But nevertheless, silver is indeed lower today. Here is where the metal spectrum stands for all of the metals. Everything is down mildly. Gold is down 0.9%, down $36.80 to $4.45.90, a $36.80 decline there. Silver is down 33 cents, almost 2/3 of a percentage point slide to $50.26. It got down as low as $49.51 before regaining some of those losses. And silver as well had dropped. Gold as well has dropped much steeper. It was down to about $4.05.90. Platinum and palladium are also both down slightly. But what's occurring here? Well, Reuters is noting about the dollar index truly beginning to strengthen here. The dollar index, as I record this video, is up 0.24 to 99.56. That's a rather sizable jump, and the precious metal prices really, in a sense, ought to be lower than that considering how the dollar has surged up here, making dollar-valued bullion, gold and silver, costly for holders of other currencies. The market is observing some back-and-forth erratic movement ahead of what is anticipated to be a release of a wave of economic statistics now that the U.S. government has reopened, according to David Meager, Director of Metals Trading at High Ridge Futures. Now, there's a reduced expectation for additional rate decreases, which has impaired the confidence for gold, at least for the moment. The week's agenda includes September employment data on Thursday and notes from the Fed's previous meeting, where it lowered rates by 25 basis points on Wednesday. Those figures are coming out. Right now, the Fed Watch tool really has not shifted a great deal. It's actually nudged up slightly to about 44.9% chance that we will witness another quarter-point rate decrease. And I think that probably means that we may not receive that rate decrease in December. And the markets are wagering that that's going to be the situation right now. So that is what is happening there. Now, there are other conditions to data that we're observing as well as we see these numbers emerge. And it includes the September employment data that will be released on Thursday in notes from the Fed's last meeting, as we mentioned here. But the rising number of Fed policymakers have upheld a hawkish position on rate decreases for the central bank's next session in December, which means that they're going to likely keep rates steady. Traders are currently valuing in this, as we discussed, that 44.9% probability. But at the moment of this article's release, it was 41%. And I think that uptick has altered the situation here a bit. That's a 25 basis point rate decrease in December. And Fed Vice Chair Philip Jefferson said the U.S. Central Bank needs to move gradually with any additional interest rate decreases as it loosens policy toward a level that would likely stop exerting downward pressure on inflation. Safe haven gold tends to flourish in a low interest rate climate as it is a non-income bearing asset. Scotiabank analysts projected gold prices at $3,800 per ounce for 2026. That's rather astonishing compared with $3,450 an ounce this year, referencing certain economic circumstances and an eventual reduction in real interest rates. Well, if they're going to be declining, you would assume that would be favorable for gold overall because it's a non-income bearing asset. But nevertheless, very intriguing. And of course, silver dropping as well is what we're observing. But it's captivating to witness how rapidly things can adjust and truly how durable gold and silver, especially silver right now, is. I think that's impressive to see it dip back below 50 and then ascend back up above 50 comfortably for both a bid and ask price. And I think that if we could settle above 50 today, and again, as I record this video, anything could happen within the next few minutes where it could just move right back under $50 again, but I don't think it will. I think we're going to end the day above 50. And that is a triumph, even though it's dropped about 3/4 of a percentage point right now. There's a struggle. There's a struggle for silver to remain above $50 an ounce. It's a firm psychological figure, but it fought it back, and that is a triumph. And to me, that's astounding. And honestly, the fact that it did reclaim above that today while still being lower and staying above $50 an ounce indicates something. That every single day that we witness silver above $50, much like what I said when silver was hovering around $36 an ounce, well, that signals something, that we have entered a new era. So essentially, I'm hoping for, ideally, that we can witness silver settle every day above $50 an ounce from now till Friday. That's my aspiration. Now, I conducted a poll on my Sunday Night Market Watch. If you're present, you witnessed it. A lot of people participated in it. What they believed silver was going to settle at, if it would settle above $54 an ounce this Friday. Now, I disagree with the 63% of those participants who voted in the poll that we will witness silver settle above $54 an ounce by this Friday. But I would state there's a major triumph that we can secure if we witness it remain and settle above $50 an ounce by the end of the week, because that's reinforcing what could potentially be a new base for silver. That's right, a new base of $50 an ounce. Now, at least that would support the argument for it. It does not mean that it's necessarily going to be there, but I think it could very well prepare the ground for it to possibly be something to consider down the line, every day above $50. So we'll observe what unfolds there. Now, the other market activity is that Bitcoin is down quite sharply again today. It's down 2% today to $91,675 for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is continuing to decline, as well as the other cryptocurrencies out there. But the other element we have to observe too is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's down over 1.1% today. The Nasdaq is down, and so is the S&P. The New York Stock Exchange as well, and other indices are also down. But the dollar index is up, and that is having an effect here on the precious metal prices. So it's an interesting phase here. But as we monitor silver being valued in dollars, we know that the worth proposition is far greater than any fiat currency could ever quantify with regard to silver. But obviously we do pay attention to price. We must, because it's how we're going to either sell or acquire our silver. But it's a compelling period indeed, and we're going to continue to monitor it. But I would love to witness silver settle above $50 every day this week. But I think, honestly, the very fact that we saw it struck rather hard earlier in the day below $50 and then regain it is a triumph. And to me, that's quite remarkable. And you know what else we're going to see here? We're going to witness more data released. We're going to obtain a clearer illustration once we receive some of this information. And I think that information very well could shift the dynamics and calculations that could place all of this at risk. All of it, including my aspiration that we witness silver settle above $50 by Friday. It could all vanish depending on how the notes are interpreted from the last Fed meeting, and in terms of the market data that could truly shift the calculations of pretty much everything. And now here is what Kansas City Fed President Jeffrey Schmidt said. I don't think further rate decreases will have much effect in mending fractures in the labor market. And so that's what he said, something fairly recent that he had mentioned there. Whatever these Fed governors state, people take notice of, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're witnessing all this data and all the calculations shift in terms of the probability data. For October personal consumption expenditures, the Federal Reserve's favored gauge of inflation will be issued on Wednesday as well, and that's part of the other data that I mentioned earlier in the video. And then next week, that will be next week, according to the Commerce Department. So that's what's occurring there. But compelling. Let me know what your opinions are about silver, about how it's performing today. To me, we can take a victory lap knowing that we've got silver above $50 again, even though it has declined just over 3/4 of a point. Now, I hope you found this video informative, perceptive, and educational. I would like to extend a multitude of appreciation to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.